I call the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. As the member for Hughes, it is a privilege and an honour to be able to add my name to that of my colleagues and members of this House in responding to the address of His Excellency the Governor-General at the opening of the 42nd Parliament of Australia. I thank the constituents of my electorate of Hughes for the privilege of representing them here in this place as their federal representative for a 5th term in office. We have just witnessed a significant change in Australian politics, and firstly, I would like to note the smooth transition of government that has just occurred. This is a tribute to Australia's strong democratic traditions and the principles of the representative parliamentary system upon which those traditions are based. The new government has made a large number of commitments to the electorate. Unsurprisingly, a lot of those are underpinned by the policies of the previous government. The 11-year period of economic prosperity under the Liberal leadership of John Howard and Peter Costello was defined by a number of great economic achievements. The commitment of a policy of budget surplus as a means of reducing public debt and public demand for money, the positive revolution in waterfront productivity, the restructuring of our tax system to provide incentives for those who work harder, the development of incentives to give the most disadvantaged a path from welfare to the dignity and security of work are to name but a few. The result of these achievements was to create perhaps the world's most successfully developed economy of the past decade, one that was referred to as the wonder from down under by United States economic commentators. And despite its vehement opposition at the time, the new Rudd Labor government has committed to retaining all of these initiatives. While there are a few questions as whether it can actually maintain its commitments, it is clear that the ideas and policies of the coalition have triumphed. The Governor-General in his speech referred to the current uncertainty in the global economy and the challenge the new government has on their hands. Fortunately for the new government, they have inherited an economy that is underpinned by strong economic fundamentals and one that will prove it can weather the current global uncertainty if it continues to be managed with discipline and diligence. And as the opposition, we will be ever watchful. Over our time in government, the coalition put the budget back into the black, eliminated government debt, started saving for the future, restored Australia's AAA credit rating and delivered more jobs, lower inflation, lower interest rates, lower taxes, higher wages, more productive workplaces, higher pensions, better living standards, more funding for important priorities like health and education, defence, transport and the environment, and more funds for state governments for them to provide those services expected by modern Australia. The coalition has a proud record in relation to financial management. When we came to government in 1996, we inherited a $10 billion budget deficit, one which we converted into a surplus by our 2nd term in office. We inherited $96 billion in government debt, which we completely eliminated by the last term of the coalition government through that solid economic management. We inherited levels of government spending equal to 25% of GDP. They are now equal to 21.2%. We also inherited a ballooning unfunded superannuation liability, which we addressed by creating the Future Fund. A strong economy is not something that happens by chance. Managing Australia's $1.1 trillion economy requires discipline, focus and experience. It requires an ability to put aside short-term politics and media spin and take hard decisions in the national interest. The coalition took difficult but necessary decisions to establish the Future Fund. For the first time in Australian history, Australia has a specific fund to provide for the superannuation of our Navy, Army and Air Force personnel and other Australian government employees as we go, rather than passing the bill on to the next generation. Removing this burden will help offset the effects of our increasingly ageing population, which looms as a great future challenge for both state and federal governments in Australia. During the coalition years, we reformed the tax system to provide tax relief and reward hard work and initiative. This included the largest tax relief in Australia's history in 2000, which were followed by further tax relief in the years 2003, 4, 5, 6 and 2007 budgets. Further encouragement was given to enterprise, initiative and savings through the lower company tax, halving individuals' capital gains tax, removing benefit taxes on superannuation, replacing the complex wholesale sales tax, reducing petrol excise, and moving from a 150% diminishing value rate on business assets to a 200% rate. This was to encourage investment in plant and equipment and technology. The Coalition invested in key infrastructure, including the Austin National Land Transport Program, with an investment of $38 billion and the largest innovation packages in our history in backing Australia's ability. The social concerns of our Australian communities are also very important to me and to many of my constituents. We need to remember that the economy is really a means to an end. I say this because without a strong economy, no government can do very much for those of its citizens who are in need of social welfare support or special assistance. When an economy is weak and in decline, it is those at the lowest levels of our society who suffer the most. They have no buffer against adversity and are the most vulnerable of our citizens. Good economic policy and good social policy go hand in hand, but good economic policy leads the way and dictates the kind and quality of social welfare we can provide for our most vulnerable Australians. A sound economy dictates the kind of society we can become. It allows us to be the best we can be and to bring all Australians to share and enjoy in the commonwealth of our nation in the real sense of that word. Speaking about our most vulnerable Australians, the talk from the government in recent weeks in relation to carers and seniors was nothing but disgraceful and disrespectful, and I was pleased that the opposition-led outcry from fair-minded Australians forced the Rudd government to rethink its plans to withdraw their special payments. I want to know if this behaviour will be the norm of the Rudd Labor government's approach to fiscal policy. Hopefully that carers and seniors were the first target of the Rudd Raiser gang is not symbolic of future savings measures to be aimed at those least able to withstand the pain in our communities. The new Prime Minister obviously didn't mean a word of his first speech as leader of the Labor Party when he talked about compassion. He said, "Compassion is not a dirty word. Compassion is not a sign of weakness. Compassion in politics and in public policy is in fact a hallmark of great strength." I couldn't agree more. Well, there was a marked absence of this compassion in the measure against carers and senior citizens. Carers are the only welfare recipients who must work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there is often a good chance that they have lost the lifestyle that many Australians take for granted. They often lose the opportunities for work or a career. They often lose their marriage, the house, the job, and the peace of mind afforded by financial stability. The Prime Minister was literally forced to show that compassion of which he waxed so lyrical in his first leadership speech. But this episode was intensely watched by the whole Australian community, and we and in the opposition and they will continue to be ever watchful in the event of any future instances of the lack of compassion for this vulnerable group of Australians. To illustrate how difficult life can be for carers, I would like to share a letter one mother